really glad to be here this afternoon. I wasn't quite sure which century I was going to land in, let alone which planet when I got into the TARDIS earlier today. The reason it's here is because we're going to be meeting the new Doctor Who, who's still in there, and he'll be finding his way out later in the programme. But I also think that Tony Curtis has been doing some time travelling. Tony.
Right. I've been transported back to a Victorian kitchen, and I'll be looking at gadgets like this. Have you any idea?
That they'd come up with someone radically different from the other doctors. There'd even been the mention of a woman taking over. But before we find out more about the new Doctor, here's a reminder of the ones who went before. Now, John Nathan Turner, you're the producer of Doctor Who. You've been producing for 8 years, haven't you? But you've worked on the series for 11 years altogether. So how many Doctor Whos have you known in your time?
Well, I've actually worked with all of the Doctor Whos except the late, great William Hartnell, the very first.
And they were all such individual characters, weren't they? Do you think that's the strength of Doctor Who, that an actor comes to it and brings their own idiosyncrasies?
Yes, I certainly think it's one of its strengths. I think that the central character as such is rather thinly sketched. And each of the actors who played the part have injected an awful lot of themselves into the role. Similarly with the new Doctor Who, there's somebody who has a innate personality which I think will blossom in the show.
You think that's maybe one of the strengths of it, and that's what the children and the adults that we hear actually like about it?
Yes, I mean, our following really all over the world is actually a kind of family audience, from 2 to 92.
How do you think that Doctor Who has stood the test of time, because it's had competition from wonder programs and films like Star Wars and The Jedi and all those kinds of films? You know, modern science fiction is so extraordinary these days, and yet Doctor Who has managed to stay in there.
Yes, I think, in a way, I don't think we've ever attempted to compete with the kind of Star Wars movies that exist in the cinema, simply because we don't have the kind of budgetary conditions that would make us able to compete. But its strength, I think, lies in the basic formula of the show, that formula being about a man who travels in time and space. So if we concentrated solely on historical stories, I mean, we could run for 2,000 years at least.
What's captivating about the time and space thing, do you think? Why is it that people like the idea of it? Is it because it's an escape for us?
Yes, undoubtedly part of it is the escapism, but I think it's that freedom of movement through time and space, so that we're not able to predict, as it were, where we're going next week. I mean, we may be in the 1950s next week and on an alien planet way in the future the week after.
What about some of the controversy that there's been around Doctor Who and its future? Do you think that's died down now, or do you think it's secure?
Well, the show will come up for annual review, as it has done for every year so far. We're looking forward to the new season because we're entering a new era with a new Doctor, and I see no reason to suppose that this will be the last series.
Now tell us about this new Doctor. You promised to choose someone who was interesting and different. What did you go for this time?
Well, I think one needs somebody with a large personality. There has to be a kind of quirkiness, a zany quality about the Doctor, combined with a vulnerability and irascibility. It's a kind of amalgam of characteristics, really, but you're going to meet him later, aren't you?
Well, we're going to meet him right now. I think let's not waste one more moment. Ladies and gentlemen, Sylvester McCoy.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Doctor.
Doctor Who.
You got it. One. I've been wanting to say that for years.
Now listen, Sylvester,
the real one?
Have you learnt how to drive it yet?
I don't think any of them have ever learnt how to drive it.
I mean, I had
thought for a moment I arrived at Mussolini's drawing room when I came in here. The decor's so nice.
Now look, that was quite a tall order, wasn't it? The old producer was saying you're going to have to be irascible, lovable, different, funny. How are you going to...
Really, I'm a tall, dark, handsome, debonair. Someone like me.
How are you going to do it?
I don't know, really. With practice. I've been doing it for years.
What else have you been doing? What's actually prepared you for this momentous moment in your life?
Well, I've been doing lots, really. I've been an actor now for about 16 years. I've done all sorts of things, from street theatre to opera, to the classics, to Shakespeare, Brecht, Beckett and various people like that, as well as having plays written for me. I've done lots of television, children's television. I've been to the Arctic and frozen to death with Scott. I've travelled, but why I wanted to do this job, yes, that's why, because I love travel. I thought, well, it'd be nice to go to outer space and see what that looks like for a bit.
Now, John said that he wanted someone genuinely eccentric.
I'll leave now.
Are you peculiar? Are you really peculiar?
Thank you very much. I'm not going to answer that. Peculiar. What, yes?
Well, is this a new Doctor Who hat? I mean, we do see a rather different kind of Doctor Who sitting here. You are going to, if you're going on like that.
I wonder what it was. Yes, it is. I don't know, really. We haven't quite decided what the costume is. I mean, we're going to work on that on Wednesday. Ask me back then. The fees are not so good, but I'll come back.
I think the hat is nice. John, what do you think?
I like it.
For a Doctor Who?
With
vote. What do you think out there? Do you think I should wear the hat? Yeah. Well, it hides my face. That's better, is it?
Seriously, what kind of Doctor Who are you going to be? Because there's quite a few people's footsteps that you're following in. How are you going to make it your own?
Well, I don't know really. I'll just try very hard to be myself. You know, I mean, I think there should be humorous. I mean, most likely bits of all of them as well, because we are all, after all, the same person. I'm actually 750 years old, I believe. Oh, it's exhausting.
Have you been watching it for years and years?
Well, yes, I watched it. I actually caught up with it when I was about 20. Started watching it then, but then when I became an actor, it became I was too busy, really. Would you believe? An actor who's busy, and I kind of didn't see the last couple of Doctor Who's very much, just odd occasions. But before that, I was a great fan. I'm delighted to be it.
But what was your reaction when you got the phone call and said, "Will you come and audition?"
Well, fear.
Did you want it? Did you want?
Yes, I mean, when I heard it on the news, and I thought, people have been saying to me for years, you should be the real Doctor Who. Mind that you just dropped a camera. You should be the real Doctor Who, and they said that lots of times when I was being something else, so maybe they wanted rid of me. But when I heard that, I thought, I'll phone my agent and tell him, try for Doctor Who, and he did. And here I am, amazingly.
John, what was it about him? And you can see this guy is definitely, I'm not going to say eccentric because I don't want you to hit me over the head.
A quirky like
personality
that.
Here. How are you going to exploit that for the new Doctor?
Well, our writers will attempt to exploit it. You know, I want to get Sylvester together with the writers so that they know his own personality and hopefully capitalise on it. But principally, going back to our earlier discussion, I think one has to emphasise that Sylvester is a marvellous actor. I mean, that's the principal requirement of the part, to be a very, very good actor, of which he is one.
Why is it important to be a good actor? Because really, Doctor Who is Doctor Who, and he's been going for years and years. So what is he going to have to do to expand it and change it?
It's a tremendously demanding part in a way, because the emotions are terribly varied and rather spasmodic. You know, 1 minute there's kind of high melodrama as they're being attacked by a whole series of Cybermen, and then the next moment perhaps there's a very light scene with a companion. So it is a very changeable kind of role, and that requires a great deal of technique.
And you're not going to give us any ideas about storylines or where he's going to go or when, what he's going to be doing in the eons to come or the eons that have passed?
Well, only that the first adventure involves an old adversary of the Doctor's called the Rani, who is played by Kate O'Mara.
We're looking forward to it. Thanks for joining us. And that's all from me. But as it's Shrove Tuesday today, Tony and Peggy have been cooking up some pancakes in their Victorian kitchen, so we're going over to try them. Hope you have a good tea as well. Let's go over and have some tea.